Hey fight fans, this is Chris Bolts and I'm coming in with a highlight and review of the inaugural MVP MMA fight that aired on Netflix yesterday on Saturday, May 16th. There was some highs, there was some lows, there was some good stuff, but we have got to talk about this giant elephant in the room. That's this fight right here. Rousey versus Carano, built the greatest fight in women's MMA history, or in MMA history, by Ronda Rousey. Yeah, I laugh. Look at the headline of this one. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, full highlights. Let me just give you guys a hint. The highlight reel is much longer than the actual fight itself. But before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. Now, I'm over here on the Netflix sports page, and I wanted to go in over each fight because for the most part, it was a good card. The main event was a bunch of shit, but the other fights, the fight between Dos Santos and Despaigne, the Ross versus the Parnes, I want to say his name was Parnes fight. That one was pretty good. This fight right here was a war zone. Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry, and then we got Ngannou versus Felipe Liz. But I wanted to go ahead and just go on Netflix Sports to pull up all the fights to go over them. But they do not have any type of highlights for the other two fights with Dos Santos versus Despaigne and Ross versus Parnes. This is kind of like, they were kind of ashamed of those fights, so I had to go out and do a separate search. And so we're going to go ahead and start with the first fight of the night. This one right here is courtesy of the Fight Mag. So make sure you go over there and give them a follow. Overall, this was a good fight. Dos Santos, he is a pioneer in the MMA world, but he is 42 years old. He had no business being in that ring. My view is it's time for him to go ahead and hang these gloves up and just pass it on to the next generation. The overall fight was really good. We're just going to go over some of the really quick highlights. I don't want to go over this guy's entire video, so I'm going to pause it here and there, and then I'll talk about it just for the Netflix thing. Two big giants that got in the ring there, both looking sharp, looking really good. I wouldn't want to get on the ring with either one of them. There was a little bit of back and forth and everything, but we saw the outcome of this fight right here. This Despaigne just comes in with a really good big hit and knocks out Dos Santos cold. Let me just say this. Fighting is a young man's game, and Despaigne just proved that right there. He got the three-piece chicken nugget deal, took out Dos Santos, got the win by knockout. So that was the first fight of the night. I say Dos Santos should probably go ahead and think about hanging it up. He's at that particular age where it's just like, this is not what us old men should be doing at this age. We don't want to be getting our bodies damaged off in there. It is a good thing that he hung in there for a while, but overall, I think it's time for Dos Santos to hang this thing up. Congratulations to Despaigne on that win. Let me go ahead and put it right there. I want to put it on this guy's celebrating face right there. So now I gotta do another search again for the Ross versus Parnes fight, because it's not on their page. So let's go over here to this one right here. This was another pretty good fight as well between these two guys. This again coming from Fight Mag. They're both really good, solid fighters. I think they're pretty young. I think this card has the youngest fighters fighting in the ring there. Let me go ahead and pause it right here. Parnes was just a beast. He was all over Ross this entire fight. He didn't really give Ross any kind of breathing room. Just got the nice ground and pound right there. Some good grappling game between both these fighters right there. Man, look how chiseled both these guys are. So see Ross going there for the single leg takedown, but he made him pay. And just look at all those body shots. And I am so glad that more and more fighters are starting to go to the body. You got this big target that's between the head and the legs. Why don't you go for that more often? Going for the head and everything. A lot of MMA fighters don't like to get their heads off the center line or anything. They like to stay on that center line and take those shots. They're not like boxers, where boxers are trained to move their head, flip punches, sway away from punches, turn with punches, roll with punches, and everything like that. A lot of MMA fighters don't do that. They just tank those punches. But Parnas did a really good job right there, going to the body, making Cross. Was I saying Ross? Cross. His last name is Cross. Making Cross just keel over like that. He's gonna have a really long night with those punches. Congratulations to this guy right here, Parnas, doing a real good job taking out Cross right there. So let's go back over here. We're gonna go back over to Netflix Sports, where they carried the highlights for the big 3 fights of the night. First big fight here going to be Felipe Lins versus Francis Ngannou. Felipe Lins, I think, was kind of afraid to actually really engage with Ngannou the entire fight. He was always backing up, looked like he was pulling his punches, looked like he was kind of scared to go in there and engage with Ngannou. And who wouldn't be? Ngannou is a goddamn unit. He was able to go ahead and really dominate the fight overall with Felipe Lins. Get Felipe Lins up against the cage, using his muscle, his pressure to get him to make some mistakes right there. That ultimately leads to a nice exchange here between both Felipe Lins. You're gonna see Felipe throw a right, and then you saw that right there. Ngannou came over with his own left, barely nipped him on the top of his head, but knocked out Felipe Lins. Francis Ngannou, I think up until that point, had the longest fight. I was telling during my stream, I was saying, if this fight goes beyond the first round, it would be considered a disappointment, because Francis Ngannou should have finished that guy a little bit earlier than that, but he finished it in the first round, didn't go into the second round or anything. Absolute dominant performance by Francis Ngannou. Let's go to the next fight. That fight being, let's go back up here. That fight being, which I think is fight of the night for the card. This is fight of the night, even though I knew it would go exactly as it intended. Platinum Mike Perry versus the kid from Stockton, California, Nate Diaz. The fight here was pretty all one-sided, pretty much all one-sided. Now, you see right here, Mike Perry was about to start getting into a couple of ground skirmishes with Nate Diaz. And I was just screaming at the television that, no, don't do that. Nate Diaz, despite being a pothead, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has a really good ground game. You don't want to get into a ground war with Nate Diaz. You want to keep this fight standing, and he almost got caught by a couple of knee bars or heel hooks by Nate Diaz. Mike Perry did, but Mike Perry does have a relatively good ground game. I've seen him go participate in a couple of jiu-jitsu matches, so he was able to get his foot protected. And after that, he decided to just keep this fight standing. And again, you just saw the excellent skill of Mike Perry just going in there, crushing Nate Diaz with lots of headshots, lots of body shots. I love the fact that more of these fighters are going to the body, throwing some knees off in there. You see right here, there's a knee coming in from Nate Diaz, but Nate Diaz is a warrior. He got it right there almost towards the end. Now, this is the only fight of the night that went into the second round, and deservedly so, because like I said, this was an absolute war. Both of these men were pretty much tired by the second round, but Nate Diaz was even more tired. And I would say that it was a combination of his conditioning and also not probably cutting back on that weed before he got into the ring or anything like that. and then on top of that, his age. Nate Diaz, I think, is going to be 44 this year, or is it maybe 42? One of those things, one of those ages. Regardless, he is in his 40s now. Mike Perry, I think, is 34. So this is another fight that favors the younger fighter. And then on top of that, Mike Perry has been consistently fighting up until this point as well. He's been participating in the bare knuckle fighting. I think he fought in the PFL. You guys can correct me on that if just on that particular point and everything like that. So he was always going to be the one favored to win this fight. And right here at the end of the buzzer of the second round, they decided to go ahead and check out Nate Diaz, and they decided to go ahead and call a doctor's stoppage on this fight. Nate Diaz was just bleeding like a sieve. Nate would have gone out there and fallen on his sword, but that's not the entire intention of MMA fighting. It's to just go out there and do as much damage to your opponent without killing them. So congratulations to Platinum Mike Perry. All the African Americans won today, except in the final round. Obviously those are two white girls, but all the other ones, they're all African American. And yes, Platinum Mike Perry is an African American, so don't go fucking around with him. He is one of us. He is one of us black people. And then we're gonna go ahead and get into the biggest disappointment of the entire night. There is no fucking way that anybody can sit here and say that this thing was even worth the show. Ronda Rousey the fight went exactly as I expected it. Gina Carano has no ground game. You see right here, Ronda Rousey was able to go ahead and get both of her legs pinned up, and that's a very bad place you want to be if you're going to be trying to, in a grappling situation on the ground. You don't want your legs pinned between your opponent because you're not going to be able to move. Gina Carano didn't know what she was doing or anything like that. Ronda Rousey immediately came in, went for the takedown, got the takedown. I'm kind of surprised that Gina Carano was not ready for that. I would have thought that her camp would have been preparing her to go ahead and figure out a way to counter that, sprawl out a little bit, or move to the side and keep creating angles so that it makes it very difficult for Ronda Rousey to line up that particular type of takedown. But it is what it is right here, so we're going to go ahead and keep going. A few little punches. Now, here's a mistake that Gina Carano made, and this is one of the things you do not want to do with someone who is an armbar specialist. You don't want to extend your arms or anything like that. Let's go back just a little bit. The ground and pound. She's already got her arm extended. It makes it very easy for Ronda Rousey to go in there and finish this armbar, and then Gina Carano immediately tapped because she doesn't know how to do an armbar escape or anything like that. What an absolute disappointment of a fight. Ronda Rousey here built this fight as the fight of the century, or MMA, the greatest fight in MMA history. That was some absolute bullshit. If I was Jake Paul, I'd have told both of these women, hey, we need to put on a show for the people, so I don't want this fight finished in the first round. You gotta let it go a little bit longer than that. But it is what it is. That probably would have been fixing the fight and all that, but I'd rather take a fixed fight than the shit that we got for the main event. Congratulations to Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano. I think you could have run this fight however many times you could, and the result would all be the same. Gina Carano is a good fighter, but Ronda Rousey is a more well-rounded fighter, and she was able to use her skills to be able to go in there and take down Gina Carano and give us that 15-second disappointment. Overall, I thought the initial MVP MMA was pretty good for the most part. I didn't see any major issues or anything like that with the fight itself. I thought it was pretty good. I thought all the fights were pretty good. Could it have been a better show? Yes. One of my biggest issues I have with this is that they kept allowing Ariel Helwani to go out there and ask all kinds of stupid questions of these fighters. And one of the stupid questions that he asked was, he asked Mike Perry, "Hey, did you think this fight was a hell or something to that extent, or is your next fight going to be like a hell fight or some dumb shit?" And then Mike Perry responded back and said, "Dude, I thought the fight that I'm in right now was a hell, was put through hell," or something to that extent. So he was asking all kinds of stupid questions, and he was starting to cause trouble. Just going in there asking questions of Francis Ngannou in front of Jake Paul, which I'm like, dude, Jake Paul's kind of like your boss right about now, and you're acting like this in front of him. So I think probably getting a better commentator and someone who's a better interviewer of these fighters off of there. Ariel Helwani likes to be antagonistic to these fighters. It's kind of like he's egging them on to try to do something to him. So I would probably get somebody else to do those commentary. But there's a lot of room for improvement. That's not what this video is for. It's just to go over the highlights for the most part of these fights. And this fight right here was just the most disappointing fight of all the fights of the night. And it's kind of to be expected because it is a chick fight. Be honest now, how many of you guys really care about women fighting? I digress. Those are my thoughts on the issue. What do you guys think about all of this? Jump down in the comments, let me know what you guys think, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. And remember, this is Chris Boat signing off. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.